Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. We are heading into week 3 of the season, but boy, this is a fun week because it is the John Tyler Robert E. Lee matchup, a series that was born in 1958 when Robert E. Lee opened, and the latest edition's coming up Friday night at Trinity Mother Frances Rose Stadium at 7:30. And of course, a new head coach for the John Tyler Lions this year, but he is certainly familiar with the rivalry. Ricklan Holmes, who played for John Tyler, has been an assistant coach at JT. So, but this is your first go-in as the head football coach, and it is Robert E. Lee. So, just talk a little bit about your first Robert E. Lee game as the head football coach.
I'm taking the same deal as going into the first game of the season with Lufkin. You know, yes, it's a rivalry. Yeah. It's a Tyler tradition. John Tyler against Robert E. Lee. And you just take it as if you take every other game, just making sure that the kids stay focused. And yeah, to me it means a little bit more, and yes, to our kids it means a little bit more. Bragging rights for a whole year is the way I look at it.
And bragging rights are, you know, that's a lot of fun. I mean, to play, what was it like to play in the game?
Oh, it was outstanding. You know, from the first day of the practice for that week, you know, just getting yourselves up for the challenge, making sure that, you know, we handled everything we need to handle. And for 4 years, I never lost to him. Mm-hmm. So, and during the time that I've been here, I don't believe we've ever beat him yet. So, what I want to do is make sure this year that we turn things around and get things back on course and make sure that we handle our business on this Friday.
I know when you and I talked, you were talking about goals you had, and one of them, what you call win the city championship. Now, it's not an official city championship, but everybody knows who won the game every year, right?
Yeah, it's called the Tyler Championship. That's one of the 3 goals that we set for ourselves as a football team to accomplish this year. You know, first win the Tyler Championship, then win district, then win state. And, you know, losing that last game against Lancaster, that didn't deter us from accomplishing any of our goals that we have set this year. So, yeah, we get back on the grind and we start practice again today, and we get back focused on the game at hand, which is the 3rd game of the season.
Any silver lining to a loss at all in terms of a chip on your shoulder or refocusing or anything like that?
I mean, you take a loss as a loss. Yeah, you don't want to lose. You always want to win. And, you know, you can say it's a deal to get you back refocused, but to me, you never get unfocused. Yeah. You just have to make sure that you stay on the path that we already set for ourselves and make sure that we continue to do the things that we need to do to be successful.
You don't see any silver lining then to losing a football
No, it's
game,
never a silver lining to me. A loss is a loss, a win is a win, and Friday night we lost.
All right, that game was in Lancaster. It was 26-21 Lancaster, and it came down to the final play, Rick. Describe kind of what happened, because as I understand, you guys had the ball at the 1-yard line and fumble snap. What happened?
Well, it came down to a drive towards the end of the game that we was driving the ball down the field to basically either win or lose the game, and we got down to the 1-yard line, and our running back, Ryan Smith, went to the left, and to me, I seen him go across the line. Well, as I'm looking and I'm seeing the ref to my sideline signal that it wasn't a touchdown, I'm running out there to call a timeout. We did get the timeout with 2 seconds left in the game, and we was able to try to go for the touchdown again. But on the second time that we went for the touchdown, we had a fumble snap, and the game was over.
And that's a tough way to lose a football game.
Tough way to lose. Anyway, it's a tough way to lose, especially when you come down to the final seconds of it with just inches away from winning the football game. And, you know, a lot of people are going to want to try to say, well, you know, the ref was against you and this and this and that. And I tell my kids all the time, it doesn't boil down to what the referees do. It boils down to what each team does, because refs are going to make their calls because that's their job. But what you can't do is put yourself as a team in a situation to where a win or a loss comes down to a judgment call from a human being, which just happened to be the referees at the time.
And so did you you lose the #1 ranking. Does that matter at this point? I mean, you got playoff. It's cool to be #1 in the state. You won't be #1 this week. Does that really matter?
Just like you said, it was cool to be #1. You know, it doesn't matter to us. Even when we first got the ranking, yeah, it was cool to be #1. Yeah, people look at you now on the TV and they say, "Oh yeah, John Tyler's #1." But at the end of the day, each day, our main focus is being #1 in December. And yeah, we may have dropped down in the rankings, and that's fine. Because we still got a lot of football left.
This ain't college football, so you still got
a lot of football left for the season, and our ranking is not going to determine whether we're going to be in the playoffs or not. Anyway, kind of like the BCS, with BCS. If you're not ranked,
no BCS in high school football.
No BCS in high school. The only thing you got to do is make sure you go in the district and you handle your business, and then come out of district, and basically anything happens in the playoffs.
Before we get to the video, just overall, how did the offense play?
Offense played good at times. We still have those small mistakes as far as the blocks that our linemen need to make. Being outside and holding calls are unacceptable for offensive linemen. And then on
especially with the offense that you run.
Yeah, with the offense that we do run. I mean, that's unacceptable. And that's something we've been continuing to correct, and we're going to continue to harp on that this week and every other week that we go into. And on the defense side of the ball, the defense came out flat. And after the first half, going into the second half, they stepped it up and they put us in position to help us win the game. But we dug a hole for ourselves that first half, going into the half 19-7. And as we dug our way out, we just ran out of time.
Yeah, and so and running the football, you had less than 100 yards for the ball game. Is that a concern, or was that just a one-game thing?
It's a one-game deal. Our focus was, they was taking the run game away from us. So what you do is you take advantage of what they give you, and that's what we did. We just took advantage of what they gave us.
All right, let's roll the tape. Again, Lions and Lancaster, and again, Lancaster, a very talented football team. And could meet again. This could be a first-round playoff matchup. We'll talk about that as well. But let's roll the tape again. A game played in Lancaster on Friday night between the John Tyler Lions and Lancaster. And Coach, you are on defense here, right?
Yeah, we're on defense side of the ball. And this play was well played right here. Corner set the edge, and he done a great job. What we got to do is we got to get those linebackers downhill and make sure we're fitting inside out and making that play that the corner set the edge for.
That's the wide angle look at the same play, and we'll get the end zone here in just a moment, which really tells you a lot. These end zone shots, as a coach, don't you guys look at that as much as you do?
I love it because you get to see your interior linemen do their work, and you get to see the things that they're doing right and the things that they're doing wrong, and make sure you correct them.
Yeah, okay. All right, and that was the first highlight, and they've still got the football. They were very talented too, were they not?
They are a very talented team. They have a lot of commits on their team as far as D1 prospects, and they're very fast, and they're also very talented. But this play right here by Elliott was what you call a defensive back dream play. As you see right here, he's going to have two verticals that's going to be threatening him. And as a defensive back, you don't want that happening to you as a free safety. And he just made a good read on the ball. He drove and made sure we came up with the interception.
I believe that's his second pick of the year, maybe?
That's his first one.
First of the year?
The first one was by the other safety, Terry
Osborne, okay. And the Lufkin game, okay. Elliott's always been a ball-hawking guy, though, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
He's had his share of those over the years. And that's the position you coached before you became head coach.
Yes,
so
sir.
You're pretty familiar with these guys.
I am, and I still charm in on them every once in a while. So.
Well, you played the position too,
Yes,
so
sir.
You've been there, done that. All right, now you're on offense. And here's Greg.
Greg's a commanding quarterback. He makes some great plays with his arms, as you can see right here. Just making sure that, we use the weapons that we do have offensively. And like I said at the beginning, they basically tried to take the running away from it, and they did a pretty good job at that. So now you just go into what we're best at, which is throwing the ball.
And he's almost as good. I mean, it's rare when a quarterback is just about as good running, accurate, rolling out as he is standing in the pocket.
Yeah.
And he's pretty. He can throw.
He can do both.
He can do both, can he?
He can do both.
Same drive, I think, right? Is that the same drive?
Yeah, the same drive as we're going down, and we get flushed out the pocket, and Greg just, he makes a good play with his legs and finishes the run. Make sure we get that first down, make sure we keep that drive alive so we can put it in the end zone and get some points on the board. And they've done a pretty good job on the coverage that time in the secondary, taking away our first and second reads. As he was going into that third read, he just felt like it was best to get out that pocket and make something happen with his feet. which that's a good quarterback decision right there.
Now you're at the goal line, trying to punch it in.
One of the little quick screen plays that we normally do, and as you see, we get it out there to our big wide receiver, Fred, and he makes something happen after the catch.
Now, you take the lead in the football game. This is Fred Ross with the touchdown catch here, wide angle from up top. And here's the end zone version of that. Showing the linemen with their roles here.
Yeah.
And nice block there by one of your wide receivers to kind of give them a little extra room.
That's something that we've been working on since the beginning of the season to make sure that, you know, not just our linemen are good at blocking, but all our skilled players also. Another great throw and catch.
Who's that?
To Darian Flowers, our two-way starter. This kid, he's an exceptional athlete himself.
He hasn't verbally committed yet, has he?
He hasn't committed to anybody yet, but he has a lot of strong looks from a lot of big schools.
You think his future is as a DB or a wide receiver?
You know, with him, you really can't say that because he's just as good a receiver as he is a DB.
Yeah. Depends on what they need, right?
It really depends on what that school needs.
Did you play? You played running back. John Tyler.
I played running back at John Tyler
and
defensive back, and then I went to college. I played defensive back to start out in punt return, and I also played a little wide receiver when Les Meisner came in.
Okay, all right.
So.
Last course now at LSU. Here you are. You're on defense here, right?
Yeah, and this is a great play, great drive by Trey Johnson. As he breaks on the ball. This kid right here, he has started out having a great season. You know, building off of what he had last year, just making sure that he has a great campaign for his senior year.
Well, Love contested him. They were going after him. He held up really well in that first game.
Because last year, that first game against Lufkin, they came after him also.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's really improved. Now you're back on defense. Sure.
Not a bad play by our defense, making sure that we stretch the play out long enough for our guys to hustle to the ball and make a tackle.
End zone view. Their quarterback, Ayers, threw for 118 yards.
Very talented young man. Very talented young man. We knew what he was going to be able to do with the ball in his hands from seeing the film that we studied previous to this game.
Did you get a pick there?
I think that what they gave us that interception right there, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I may be wrong because I'm showing that you only had one pick.
Yeah,
so
they overturned and said that he hit the ground.
Okay, all right.
With the ball.
Still a heck of a defensive play there.
Great defensive play. Great defensive play.
Again, you had to overcome a 19-7 halftime.
It's just a great play by Terry Osborne, stretching it out and staying in pursuit, staying with the play and making a negative yardage out of this.
That's just good tackling, isn't it?
Making sure you're working inside out, knowing that you have that edge player out of that corner and making something happen.
Different play coming this way. Great pursuit again. Big hit at the end of that play, too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And that's what you call stretching the play out, using the sideline as your third defender. And our guys on the defensive side of the ball are starting to understand that is their third defender to help them in situations like this.
Now you're back on the offensive
side of the ball.
That's a nice throw.
Yes, it was.
Who's on the receiving end of that?
That's Fred Ross once again. I mean, that young man right there is, you know, they tried to bracket him with two people all night, tried to take him out the game. But, I mean, when you're just a receiver like he is, it's hard to try to take somebody out the game like that, especially at the position that he plays.
What do you call this formation?
That's called our diamond set.
That's what I called it the first game.
Set.
Who's carrying the ball here? Is that
That's Fred.
Fred, okay.
Yeah, Fred once again. Reggie didn't play this game. He was sick.
He was sick, okay.
Yeah, he was sick. And hopefully, as of right now, I think he's well enough to start and come to practice today. So we'll see how that goes.
Now you're in comeback mode here. You'd fallen behind in this game, right?
Yeah.
And this is part of the comeback.
This is a part of the comeback, keeping the drive alive, making sure that we're making the plays that we need to make, and just finding Fred Ross once again. Like I said, it's hard to cover this young man.
Ward keeping the play alive. And there's the touchdown.
Yes, sir.
That one covered 13 yards.
Big catch.
Is this the final drive right here?
Sophomore, yes.
Okay.
Big catch by a young sophomore, Jeremy Wilson. Young man is starting to come into his own, along with another sophomore that we had, which made a huge catch to keep the drive alive. Matter of fact, this drive right here, his name was Nick Kane. And he made an awesome catch on the sideline, keeping his feet in bounds and getting that first down. Coming across the middle, making sure we make that secure catch and hold on to the ball, even after a big hit. Positive yardage. Pocket collapses with the defensive end that they had at Lancaster. These type of things are going to happen with the pocket collapsing and having to be able to scramble and make something happen with your feet.
But the thing about Greg, and that's what I like about him, he does, some quarterbacks, get happy feet and want to run first, but he does not do that.
No.
He runs when he has to.
No, he runs when he has to run.
Right.
Yeah, that's his second choice. He's always keeping his eyes downfield. Even when he's scrambling out the pocket,
right.
He always tries to make sure he stays a line of scrimmage so he can make something happen with his arms.
Which he's doing right here.
Like right here. He's still keeping his eyes downfield. He's looking for either open man or a block. And if he can see a block or a crease, he's going to hit it and make some positive yardage out of it.
Because the big picture, you want to keep him healthy, and the more hits he takes, the more chances he can get hurt.
The chance he can get hurt, and he does a good job of taking care of his body as far as the durability that it takes to play 16 games.
This is the end zone view of this. There's just nobody open, I guess, at this point, right? Well, maybe
well,
not.
You could try to thread that ball into that receiver going on that shallow route, but with that corner playing the way that he was playing, it'd be a hard deal to come up with.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. And again, it came down to the last play of the game. Lancaster won it 26-21. Looking back on that ball game, the way the guys handled it and the way you expect them to handle a loss. How do you think they go up? How do they approach this? How do you tell them to approach it this week?
Well, you use it as a learning tool, and I believe that the conversation that we had after the game as a team, they are mature enough to handle it, and they understand that the things that we do for a reason. And it's to avoid situations like what happened Friday. So with that being said, our kids, they're going to handle it, and they're going to embrace it. They're going to take it head on, and they're not going to avoid that it was a loss, because it was a loss. But we can't dwell on that Friday, because we got another Friday that's coming up, which is the third game of the season.
Yeah.
Against our crosstown rivals.
And it's more than just the third. We talked about this. It's more than just game 3 of the season, too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they know that, right?
And they know that. And our kids understand that, it means a lot to us, but it even means more to the city of Tyler. And they understand that.
Well, now you got them 2 years ago, but last year Lee won, and Lee has had kind of a little bit the upper hand.
Yeah.
in recent years because they were able to run the football on you last year.
And they're still going to be able to run the football. They have a great running back out of Laquintus Wallace, outstanding young man. I hadn't seen him really been stopped on film yet. The thing I'm hoping that happened to him is run out of gas. So, I mean, with a running back there behind him, like him, with the offensive line that they have, the quarterback play that they're starting to get out of that quarterback, you add that with the solid defense that they do have, you got the makings of a pretty good game on Friday.
You could play Lancaster again in the playoffs, couldn't you?
We could, but because of the way our districts are set up, I think they either at the top of our district or the bottom of our district, and in the first round of play, you always play that by-district game, which is either the top or the bottom district you play. So depending on how they pan out in their district and how we pan out in our district, we could either meet them the first or the second round.
You love that, wouldn't you? Love getting a shot at those guys?
I would love to. You always want to get to that point to where you can play somebody that beat you once before.
Yeah.
Kind of like my senior year at Oklahoma State University. First game of the season, we went to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and played Southern Mississippi. Close game. I think we lost that game by maybe a touchdown or a field goal. Then we ended up playing them in the Houston Bowl, our last game of the season. And we wore them out because we remembered that first loss of the season. So, you look at that and you hope that it happens. And if it does, we'll be prepared for it. And we got a little, you have a little extra motivation behind it also. Not just winning a playoff game, but also beating somebody that beat you once before.
Ricklan, there's a perception, I think, that you guys have a lot of swagger that maybe sometimes you have too much. What would you say to that?
I call it confidence. It's not a sense of being arrogant because it's different between being arrogant and being confident.
Okay.
When you're arrogant,
what's the difference? Yeah,
when you're arrogant, you're very boisterous about what you do.
Right.
You're good, but you don't need to talk about it. Our guys, we pretty much know that we put ourselves in a position to win football games. And we're confident in everything that we do.
Right.
And with that confidence, you can say it's a sense of pride. Kids call it swagger, but I don't call it arrogance because I know a lot of arrogant coaches. I know a lot of arrogant teams, and my football team is nothing like that.
So you prefer not to use the term swagger, then, right?
Yeah, I mean, because swagger can get confused with being arrogant to me. I just call it just confidence in what we do.
Did the kids lose any at all Friday night, in your opinion?
No. If anything, it made them have more confidence in what we do because it basically proves that everything that we've been doing up to this point is set in place to make sure that things like this don't happen.
Right.
But when you don't do the things that we practice, you don't do the things that you're taught to do, these type of things that happen. So basically, it lets the kids know that what we're doing, is what we need to be doing. And we just need to turn up the tempo just a little bit more and make sure that we stay consistent in the things that we do.
The attention that you get by being number one, do your guys like that? I mean, even though may not be number one this week because they lost a game, do they like that attention, or is it sometimes more fun to fly under the radar a little bit?
I think they like the attention. I mean, just like anybody, you always want to be known as the top person. Just like with you want to be known as the best host there is in TV. Sure. I mean, just like us.
I'm not that.
It comes with a self-pride.
Right, absolutely.
That comes
Job
with
well done, absolutely.
And our kids, like I said, they understood what it was. They understood that, we are number one, but it always boils back down to, I always tell them, just because you're number one now, don't mean you're going to be number one in December. And our main goal is to make sure that we're number one in December.
When you look back on '97, the last time you were a senior that year, how did you guys handle being number one? Because you had some pretty good football teams during your time at John Tyler.
During that time, we said it, we talked about it that first time that they labeled us with it. And then after that, we always told ourselves, we got to practice like we're number two. We got to practice like we're number two. We got to work like we're number two. We got to lift like we're number two. Because the only way that you're going to stay number one is to practice like somebody's ahead of you.
Yeah.
So our kids, they do that too. But that sense of being consistent is what we work on a daily basis. And hopefully by the time district comes around, we'll be done worked out all those kinks and we'll be able to roll through district like we need to.
What do you get out of a game like Friday night? I mean, Is it a playoff atmosphere? I mean, this game is not going to, win or lose, it has no impact on any district race or whether or not you get in the playoffs, because it's not even a district game. But there is an atmosphere there that you might see down the road,
it's
right?
It's an atmosphere of civil rivalry is what it's called. You don't want your brother to be better than you. So, yeah, we are brothers in this type of deal, and we are siblings, and, that's the way we're going to look at it. We at the end of Friday, we want to be able to go back home and say, Mama, guess what? Daddy, guess what? I won. I beat him. So that's the way you got to take it. You got to take it as that. And, yeah, it's going to be like a playoff atmosphere. Everybody in Tyler pretty much going to be there. Cheering us on. We're the visitor this year, so our visitor side will be full. Their home side will be full. There'll be red on one side, blue on the other. So
there could be some benefit out of this, not only from a confidence point of view and just the benefit you get from winning the game, but in late November or December, if you're still playing, hopefully you are, and there's a big crowd somewhere and there's, it's just electric.
Yeah. I mean,
then you'll remember that, right?
Yeah, you remember that. You remember that atmosphere. You remember that intensity. You remember the way the crowd, sways back and forth depending on how the momentum of the game is going. And you use that as energy for your team, and not only just energy, but a learning stick to know that this is what we are working for. This is the type of atmosphere that you want to be in.
Every week.
Every week.
Yeah, and the only way to do that is to get to play in Cowboy Stadium sometime down the road, right? Or something like that, right?
And that's the plan. That's been our goal since day one. And that's still our goal, and it's not going to sway, and I'm not going to let it sway, because it's very much feasible for us to accomplish that goal, but it's only going to be on the determining factor is going to be us being consistent and us being very disciplined.
What do you have to be better at this week to be successful from last week? What area do you most need to improve in?
We got to learn how to run the ball. We got to learn how to be able to run the ball and move the sticks. Even if they try to take it away from you, at some point in time, you got to find some kind of success in that area and make sure that you get a lot of positiveness out of it. Not saying that, we're going to run the ball 25 times a game, but if we do run it 10.
But enough to keep them honest, right, on the passing game,
just enough to keep them honest, and that's something that we're going to have to work on throughout the whole season, making sure that we stay consistent in that. And that's going to come from our line play being disciplined, making sure that they are consistent in knowing each and every block that they're supposed to be doing and getting that job done, because at the end of the day, I mean, you can't run the ball if your line ain't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
The last minute we have, just any one Robert E. Lee John Tyler game that you played in that you remembered more than the others?
The last one I remember, it was the last one I played in, which was probably my most memorable one, because at the beginning of the play, I took a touchdown back. I took scat. Matter of fact, we ran scat, and I took it for 55 yards.
On offense or defense?
Offense.
Okay.
Offense. And I remember, going into prior that week, Coach Wilson used to always tell us on Monday, he used to always say, this is the first play that we going to run at the game. And he said, I plan on scoring. And, we always used to laugh about that. And then when the game started, we'd be like, okay, he really did call that play. So, I mean,
and you really scored.
And we really did score. So, just going into that game, remembering those highlights, from all 4 years of playing against Robert E. Lee, and just coaching against him for the past several years, and just knowing that, this game is, This is a Tyler tradition.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is fun. It's very fun. And I think it's more fun for the fans than it is for us.
All right, good luck, okay?
I appreciate it.
All right, Coach Holmes and the John Tyler Lions against Coach Piskey and the Robert E. Lee Red Raiders. Again, should be a fun atmosphere. Always is. If you're in Tyler and you've not been to the game, you owe it to yourself to go to one. It's 7:30 Friday night, Trinity Mother Francis Rose Stadium. Both teams need and deserve your participation and your support. For Coach Holmes, I'm Bill Coates. Thanks for joining us.